Congrats, your Zoom account is now set up. Let's personalize it and take a look at some basic settings so that you can be successful in the classroom or running meetings, however it is you're going to be using your Zoom.
This is Christina Treccia, and in this video, we're going to look at some profile basics on Zoom. Hi, all right, let's get started. I'm going to toggle myself down into the corner so I don't obstruct your view of my Zoom account as I walk you through this quick video. Let's look at profile settings. Follow my mouse and you'll see up here, I'm in my Zoom account and I have these options on the side. When I click on profile, it takes me to this page. And we're going to change a couple things to personalize it so that every time you join someone else's Zoom meeting or start your own, you've got the name that you want and the photo that you want representing you. You'll see here it defaults to this gray person. Click on Change, Upload, and then you can pick this picture. I picked one, Kid Profile. I uploaded this before so that I have something really easy to pick when I showed you and walked you through this. So I'm going to pick Kid Profile, and you get a glimpse into the early 80s and my awesome feathered hair. It gives you an option to crop it, and you're only going to be able to pick files that are photos. So you can take what's called a screenshot, or you can take a photograph of yourself on your phone and then email it to yourself or upload it to your computer. It just has to be a picture file, or like a JPEG, a GIF or GIF, however you want to say it, or a PNG. So there it is, a nice little small picture. You can see my awesome feathered hair from that time in my life. And now it just says C. Treccia. And that's not what I want when I hop onto a Zoom meeting or I run a Zoom meeting. I want my full name. I want it to say Christina. So to change this, follow my mouse. It's got a big yellow circle around it. I go to Edit. And here we go, first name, just like any other kind of email account. You can change or add all this information. All it's going to show is what you put here for first and last name. That's something you can always change at any time, even during a meeting. So during a meeting, you can change it by hovering over your picture or by finding yourself in the participant list and clicking on Rename. A host of a Zoom meeting might have you do this. They might have you rename yourself so they can see where you're from and see more about you, or to put you in breakout rooms. And we'll get more into that in another video. So now I have changed my name to what I'd like it to represent. If I went by Mrs. Treccia, and that's what I wanted on all my Zoom meetings, knowing that I could change it in other meetings, I would set it to Mrs. Treccia, and it would save me a lot of time over months of using Zoom. Follow my mouse again, and I'm going to go to some basic settings in meetings. The easiest way to run meetings in Zoom is to have that same link that you always use, and that's in your personal meeting room. So click on Meetings, it's right below Profile, and then you go to Personal Meeting Room. You can see here, I have a meeting ID. That's the meeting ID I always use, and I can always send it out so that anyone who's joining me knows they can find it in an old email or find it on a calendar invite and know that that is the Zoom link that we are using. It's nice and short. If it's really long, that means the password is already embedded in it. So you need to make sure that it's nice and short and you don't have one-click password in your settings set up. So here is my meeting ID. I have waiting room enabled. Well, how did I do all of this? I scroll down. Again, I went to Meetings, Personal Room. I'm scrolling down. I go to Edit. This is where I change all this stuff. So passcode is another word for password. I could say, well, we don't need a password, but we're going to have a waiting room. Or I could say, we're going to have a password, but not a waiting room. So I can choose either of those. As of the end of September, you're going to have one of those two as a safety feature in Zoom. They're going to make you choose a waiting room or having a password. I have it set so that my video turns on when I join and the participants do. They can always choose to turn it off. Being on video can be stressful for adults and students alike. So thinking about Zoom being a performance and that really acknowledging also sometimes our internet connectivity doesn't have space for us to be online and on video. I have the audio for telephone and computer, taking into consideration some people actually might be calling in. I never choose Enable Join Before Host unless I have a co-host. If I enable this, that means you can start my meeting without me. I have usually mute participants upon entry, which means they can unmute themselves once they join, but once they join in, it's not the cacophony of dogs and stuff all around. It's nice and quiet, and people can mute and unmute themselves. Depending on the meeting, some districts are requiring authenticated users, and this breakout room pre-assign is pretty complicated. You can just do breakout rooms in the meeting, and there is a video about this in this series. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now I have a link with my personal meeting room that I can use all the time, and I have set up a password, and I have the waiting room set up, and those are just some of the settings, the really basic settings that'll ensure that you'll have some consistent success with how you appear, what your name is, having a waiting room, making sure that others aren't starting your meeting before you, and just kind of learning your way around the basic profile settings on Zoom. So thanks for joining me, and you can check out other videos on developing passwords and waiting rooms and more advanced settings in this series.